Greetings, everybody. Cuppa Anime Joe here. Now, I assume you all know why it is that I have gathered you here today. And if not, allow me to enlighten you. We convene to review Chapter 1188 of One Piece, which is titled Wailing Void. And I've got the chapter right here. You know, I've kind of been flip-flopping back and forth between totally scripting the reviews like I do with my other videos, or having it come really more based off my initial reactions. So, you know, if you notice the difference between the scripted reviews and the unscripted reviews, let me know in the comments, and then tell me which style you like better. With that being said, this chapter opens up with a phone call from the past. And it looks like it's Imu's remembering this, right? And the way this scene reads to me, first off, we can assume that this call is being made with a Denden Mushi, or whatever the Void Century used as their vocal communication technology. It is entirely different. They had something else. For all we know, it could be more similar to an actual phone, like what we would use. In any case, the call is coming from Imu. It seems like Imu is reaching out to somebody. But I don't think they were expecting Joy Boy to be the one who answers. So, you know, my original thought here was perhaps the one Imu is reaching out to is actually Lily. And he is not expecting Joy Boy to be there. Because when Joy Boy picks up the phone and says, "Who are you?" Imu's like, "This is Mu. Imu. And who is this?" And Joy Boy's like, "Oh, me. You're talking about me?" I'm flattered. In any case, I am Joy Boy. So, you know, if Imu knew who he was reaching out to, that wouldn't be a question. Now, maybe he's just calling it could be a scenario where Imu's like given a contact information, somebody's contact information, or some instruction to contact this person. We just don't know. The only thing we can really surmise from here is that Imu and Joy Boy do not know each other. At the instance of this call, they might know of each other, but neither of them have ever heard the other one's voice. And this thought comes in Imu's response to the end of last chapter when Luffy says, "Don't call me other names, I'm Monkey D. Luffy." And so Imu has this recollection, right? Has this memory, and then he states, "Yes, Joy Boy is already dead. So why dost thou insist on stirring these memories?" Of course, Luffy has absolutely no idea what Imu is talking about. He doesn't even know who Joy Boy is. Luffy still doesn't even know that his devil fruit isn't the Gumu Gumu no Mi, right? He is as clueless as it can be when it comes to what powers he embodies and who it is that people like Emmett or Imu are comparing Luffy to. And so this is mostly a battle chapter, and we see it start right off. Imu coats his entire hand in Maki flames, right? Or in Omen flames, in any case. And he throws a punch towards Luffy. Now, Luffy, in typical Gear 5th fashion, doesn't totally dodge. He just extends his head, his neck downwards to avoid the blow. But these Omen flames are the ones that are sentient. And so they notice, they're like, "Huh, he dodged, huh? Well, then all we have to do is aim down." And we see Imu's attack curl, and I will say, this is like pretty goofy the way it looks. His arm does like this jagged movement. I'll probably put it on screen. And then his fist just flies down, right? Extends down. Very Gear 5th-esque, right? Luffy is not the only person who can fight with these wacky, zany abilities. And Imu's fist makes a direct connection with the back of Luffy's head, and he just sends him flying into the ground. So we already see here that, like, let's say Luffy is using Future Sight. He could not see far enough for this follow-up punch from Imu. Or, if he could see far enough, he was simply not fast enough to dodge it. And either one of those instances, it's impressive what Imu was able to do. And so now the fight continues, right? Luffy leaps up from the ground. He is comically burned. I mean, I guess Maki does make black flames, right? So it would make sense that it would burn on contact, but I don't think we saw anybody else get this char-broiled. So this is definitely a Gear 5th reaction. And we start to see that, kind of like Loki, Luffy, he just can't land any blows on Imu when Imu's locked in and paying attention to him. Which really makes me wonder if Imu possesses a insane degree of Future Sight Haki, or if Maki encompasses the entirety of his fighting might, his military might, like he said, including Devil Fruit-esque abilities and Haki-esque abilities. It could be his version of Future Sight that is allowing him to just totally predict and dodge attacks from these top tiers like Luffy and like Loki. And so Imu is very quick too. It looks like Luffy goes in for a punch. This is kind of what it seems like to me, right? Luffy goes in for a punch and Loki pulls the "I'm behind you" straw hat maneuver, right? Like you see people speed fast people often do in anime where they're like, "I'm behind you. No, I'm behind you. No, I'm behind you." So Imu, right, appears behind Luffy very quickly. I'm not certain he's fully teleporting, but it certainly looks like it. And he brings his weapon, it looks like maybe to the side, like this, comes in from the side and hits Luffy. He might be stabbing it forward, but the way the impact looks to me, Oda doesn't draw it on the tip of his staff-like weapon. He draws it more like kind of in the center, as if he's doing a swing towards Luffy, right? Luffy retaliates with some punches, and Imu just blocks them, and Luffy is feeling it. He's like, I thought that was a for sure hit. So even in instances where Luffy believes he is making contact with Imu, he's not getting solid full-on hits. Imu's either blocking or dodging everything very effectively, which is not something we've seen a lot of with Gear 5. Gear 5 so far has been pulling the fast one on every opponent that fights against it, including people like Kaido. Current top tiers like Kaido are flabbergasted when they face Gear 5th. But Imu is just a different story because he has seen, and we'll see this at the end of the chapter, he has seen just a all-around vastly superior user of these abilities, and he has fought with them in the past. So he is not taken off guard by anything that Luffy is doing. Imu is preparing another Omen attack. He's doing the hand signs. In the beginning, I thought that he might have different hand symbols for different techniques, but I think he's always using the same hand signs, but he can select what kind of Omen ability is being manifested when doing that. And so he rapid fires, he like machine gun Maki, right? Like his version of Gatling. He shoots off a series of the ghostly Maki fireballs, and they all are likely the sentient ones because they're tracking right towards Luffy, who realizes that they're coming in like bombs. And Luffy counters it with, you guessed it, a Jet Gatling. Now, as far as I know, Jet Gatling is a Gear 2, a Gear 2nd attack. Now, I suppose in Gear 5th he could use all of his Gear 2nd moves, but wouldn't this be like Booming Dawn Gatling? So I'm wondering if this is a translation error, if Luffy is somehow stacking Gear 2nd on top of Gear 5th, which I just don't think is necessary with how Gear 5th works. In any case, the translation here is Jet Gatling, but it might be, his Booming Dawn Gatling or the Gear 5th version of his Gatling attack. And he intercepts all of the Maki ghosts, and they are pretty surprised. This is kind of a comical looking panel here with Luffy's fists making contact with their faces, but they all explode. Emu, in this panel, which I think I will include it on the screen, it looks like he just knows what's coming. I do not know if this is him noticing that Luffy has countered and is coming in for another attack, or again, if it's like that advanced version of Future Sight or whatever it is that Emu has. But he knows an attack is coming. And then Luffy... Guys, Luffy turns into a genie. Gomu Gomu no Majin. And he turns into like a big genie out of a bottle. This, you know... Listen, okay? One Piece, by nature, it is a goofy pirate manga. And Luffy has looked the part for a very long time. But this might be the goofiest I have ever seen Luffy look in all my days following One Piece. But I also kind of like it. It's cool. It's like a spin on his giant form, right? Because he's much bigger than he was before, but he's not just a literal giant-sized Luffy. Now, before we continue, I would implore all of you to hit that like button, hit the subscribe, smash that bell icon, leave a comment, interact in whatever way you feel the best with, because I must say that it is extremely important for small channels, which mine most certainly is, and above all, I would greatly appreciate it. Now with that, back to your regularly scheduled programming. And boy, he is feeling himself here, stating, "Don't think I missed what happened in your fight with Loki. I'm not going to let his death go to waste." And Loki is like, "Wait a second, I'm still alive, you jackass. I'm not dead over here. What are you talking about?" And Luffy is like, "Oh, wait, Loki, bro, you're still kicking. I thought you were cooked." Or maybe I was just trying to sound dramatic. But no, it's great. It's great to see that you're back up. Emu takes this distraction as an attempt to attack Loki, because I think he really does want to finish off Nidhogg, right? Emu's goal, aside getting the children of Elbaf, is to take out Luffy and Loki, because he knows that he cannot control them, not even with Domi Reversi, and the way that he can with nearly anybody else. And so Ragnar gets in the way, and he looks pretty terrified of taking this attack. You know, we talk a lot about Ragnar endurance and power feats, but it's very possible that if he were to try to just take this blow with Loki injured in his squirrel form, that Ragnar would really take a lot of damage from this Omen attack. But in comes my man, one of my favorite Straw Hats, the GOAT, who needs to do more than putting out fires. First son of the sea, Jinbei, and he uses Fishman Karate, Obelisk Tile Punch. Yeah, I did that. That's right. I went, and he blocks Emu's attack. So that's pretty impressive. Like, Luffy is over here getting trounced by Emu. So even being able to block his moves is rather impressive, even though fighting him directly just wouldn't be a possibility for anybody who's not Luffy and Loki, and even not really them. In any case, Jinbei blocks the attack from both hitting Ragnar and from hitting Loki. And Luffy's like, "Jinbei, my man, you did it, you got him." And Jinbei's like, "Luffy-kun, just say the word, and I shall protect him for you." And so now Loki can actually take a little bit of a break. He's going to need it. I keep mentioning the end of this chapter. Let's just say Luffy gets crocodiled at the end of the chapter. Only it looks even more painful than when Crocodile got him with the hook. And what this makes me think is that, one, we'll get to this at the end of the chapter more. I don't think Emu's going down this arc. And I think that Luffy and Loki are going to have to team up to drive him out at the end. All that to say, it is good that we have the Straw Hats here in the vicinity, even if it's just Jinbei, to protect Loki from just getting finished off by Emu in a sneak, right? Nami and Usopp notice that Luffy is fighting that guy from earlier, and they wonder if even he is going to be okay. And really, they're all just like, who the hell is this guy? Like Brook mentions, he's clearly higher ranked than the Gods Knights. But as far as any of us know, the only individuals that might rank higher than them are the Gorosei, the 5 elders. And so, not even Brook, who knows so much in terms of the Straw Hats, and this makes sense, is aware of Emu. Like, this is the Straw Hats coming face to face with the shadow ruler of the world, whom they just simply had no concept existed. Usopp's like, oh, he's got to just be the head of the Gods Knights. That's got to be it. And listen, Usopp, I mean, you're not wrong. He is above the Gods Knights for sure, but he's not merely the head of the Gods Knights. He's the head of the Gorosei too. He's the damn ruler of the stinking world. Of course, you don't know that, but yeah, he's up there. And Brook, in a slight aura farming moment, I just realized the way this pose is drawn, some markings in the background, pure white. Brook's like, the world government is always shrouded in mystery. And of course, we still have the Gunko thread going on. The ice isn't fully melting. So Frankie comes in and lets Brook know, like, hey, we got to get back to what we were doing. And Brook keeps calling Gunko Princess Shuri. And this tips Emu off. And we can be pretty sure, in fact, we can be very sure, that during Brook's flashback, Emu was there through Marcus Mars, right? And so Emu starts putting the pieces together. First off, we get a callback to when Robin and Luffy were frozen by Aokiji way back in, I think, man, was that Long Ring Longland? Don't quote me on that, but way earlier in the story, pre-time skip, when Luffy took on Aokiji, him and Robin were frozen. All that to say that some of the Straw Hats here, specifically Usopp and Nami, have experience with the need, or with what is needed to defrost a person. Now, I don't know if they're going to have to do that to Gunko, because this is mystical ice and Ragnir's right there. So maybe Gunko or Shuri. I got to start calling her Shuri. Maybe Shuri will be okay, but that is a concern. They're like, hey, if this ice doesn't fully melt, you know, or if Ragnir can melt it most of the way, but she's still kind of a little bit frozen, what steps must we take to make sure she comes back safely? And Emu notices that Gunko has yet to break the ice. And then he says, a man with an afro, who refers to Gunko as Princess Shuri. Wait a second. It cannot be. And so I think that right here, Emu is starting to figure it out. He's figuring out that the skeleton on the Straw Hat crew, Brook, is the same Brook, the same individual who encountered them in the Asperia Kingdom all those years ago during the taking of Shuri. And so Emu might really now start to put this puzzle, put these pieces together, and really figure out just what relationship Brook has to Gunko. And Luffy, I think this has got to be Luffy's technique. He calls it sucker punching bullet. I don't know if he's coming in for a surprise attack, you know, because Emu's a little distracted. But this time, it does not work. Emu straight up blocks it, puts out his hand. It looks like they might not even be touching. So there might be a little bit of a gap here between Emu and Luffy. And it does look like there's some type of black lightning coming out here. So this might be like a conquer clash, even if it's on a not sky splitting level. And Emu's like, didn't thou not just boast about seeing what became of Loki and his gargantuan body? And Emu does, it looks like a scope with his eye. I don't know if it's just the way Oda drew it, but it looks like this technique, whatever he's about to do, is different from the Maki flames from before. He's got his hand up like this. It's over his eye. There's like a almost like a black eye looking shape in it with fire above it. This might be the marking. This is for stigma. Okay. Yeah. So this must be what it looks like when he marks the target with those black Maki fireballs we saw last time, and then he uses that sword, that stigma sword attack. Luffy is able to dodge it, but Emu really presses his attack. He's releasing more and more Maki balls towards Luffy, and it is becoming harder and harder for Luffy to dodge them. And then Emu prepares for his final strike. He transforms his weapon into something known... Oh, wait a second. This is no simple transformation. He like twirls his weapon. It looks like he maybe puts it into the Omen ring behind him. Yeah, I keep saying Maki and Omen. I've been wanting to just call it Omen, but you know what? Just presume they're interchangeable at this point. He seems to stick his weapon into the Omen ring that is behind him, and out from that Omen ring comes a new weapon called the Sword of the Wailing Void. And this thing, man, it looks so cool. And immediately we see life being sucked from the things around Emu. We see this through a tree that immediately starts withering. And then suddenly the trees wither out a path directly towards Luffy. And Luffy noticed this. He's like, the forest is wilting. And Emu's like, the view, it is improving. I can see you now, boy. And Luffy comes in for an attack, but it is just too late. And here, Emu drops an absolutely foul line. It is clear thou art not Joy Boy, for Joy Boy would never be this weak. And Luffy, he gets straight up stabbed through the chest by Emu. Like, he basically, it looks like Emu sends his Omen flame guys around the back, and they push him into Emu's sword, and Emu's just chilling. Bam! Straight up stabs him. Boy, does it look painful. If this was anybody but Luffy, or Loki, who also got stabbed like this, they might just be dead. And this is it, guys. This is the kind of loss. This is the kind of trouncing that I think Gear 5th needed. We haven't really seen Gear 5th, like I mentioned earlier, we haven't really seen it get completely like walked on like this. Emu countered every single thing that Luffy tried, and he totally got the best of this conflict by the end of it. And it really doesn't even seem like Emu is stressed at all. It's as if he is not even trying. And so this is what we need. We needed Emu to look like the world's boss that he is. We needed him to look like the ruler of the world. We needed Luffy, like the Straw Hats, right? Our main characters have to get stronger. And a lot of times, especially in Shonen, the means in which they become stronger is getting completely overwhelmed by an enemy and gaining a new goal to work towards. Now, I have a hard time seeing Elbaf totally losing in this arc, because I just don't think the Straw Hats are gonna go to Marie Joie after the kids. So, like, to me, this isn't the end. I do think Luffy's gonna be able to keep going. Eventually, I think he's gonna start growing and getting closer and closer to Emu's power. I expect Loki to get back up and go into his hybrid form, so we get a tag team between Luffy and Loki against Emu. And while I think the Gods Knights are gonna get driven out, because I really see Summers losing to Zoro and killing him, losing to Sanji, I do not think Luffy and Loki are actually going to defeat Emu. I think that if anything, he's going to hit a time limit. He's going to notice the Gods Knights have been defeated. Maybe Gunko gets freed and is Princess Shuri again. And so Emu's going to perform either a necessary or a tactical retreat, but while looking like he was on top of this conflict the entire time. And we have a break next week, so I'm not sure what's going to come yet during that period of time. I've been doing Straw Hat power-up videos, so perhaps I'll get a couple more of those out. Or again, if we get enough comments on this video, I can do kind of a group discussion where I go through what you all have to say and make a follow-up out of that. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this chapter. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. If you did, please like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon. Leave a comment. I would greatly appreciate it. And with that, I would like each and every one of you to have an excellent rest of your day.